All right, so we have finished the basic shape on problem 3-12. So in the text, we're going to add the holes into this drawing now as well. So I can either start, we see that there is a hole here on this surface. So we can either model on this surface or we can rotate it around and we can model on that surface. Doesn't really matter in this case because it's a through hole going all the way. So, and in this case, I'm just going to again use the sketch tool. So when I create the holes on this particular activity, I'm using the sketch tools just to show you a little later on when we start to create some dimensions and stuff on our drawing. You're going to see how that kind of plays in and what the difference is between using the sketch tool versus the solid modeling hole tool here. So I'm going to kind of come in here and we're going to select this. We see that the dimension of that hole, if you're looking at the side view, we know that that is 20 millimeters. So I'm going to place that there with that. Now I also need to add some dimensional constraints. So we can see again from the side view that from the center over to that surface is 50 millimeters. It automatically kind of picked up on the midpoint. So I can go ahead and place that, click enter to place that. And then I need to find the location in the other dimension. So we can see from, again, from the side view, we see that that is 65 millimeters up from the bottom of this part. So let's place that there. So finish the sketch out. So I've got that hole. So let's create the extrusion. So I'm just going to select that shape. Now notice again, we can kind of extrude this out to have it being projected, or I can go back in. Now I can go ahead and just set a dimensional extent. So but in this case, rather than be a distance, we know that it goes through all. So we want to go ahead and complete, and we're cutting this out, and we're going to put a degree also. So that is that hole and that sketch. Now I'm also going to come in here and we're going to sketch on this plane. Again, as I make a decision of these hole placement, I can either sketch on this plane and this surface here, or I could rotate around. I know I'm going to see this in the bottom of this part too, so I could also click and select the bottom surface and sketch on that one as well. I don't know at this point whether it makes any difference for this particular problem. Other times it may make a difference. So let's go ahead and create the circle here. So I'm going to kind of come in here and we're going to create, again, we know from looking at the top view that these are also 20 millimeters. So let's go ahead and click 20 and enter. And I'm going to right click, repeat here. Now, again, I want these two to be constrained. So I can come in when I'm doing my geometry. Now watch carefully. So I can kind of pick up that line, and you see that dotted line? That's going to create a relationship with these particular features. So as far as that goes, but for right now, I'm going to purposely take that off, and let's kind of create the 20 millimeter here as well, just so you can kind of tie this in and understand a little bit more about how all of these different types of relationships here, as far as our actual geometric constraints should be on this too. So if I wanted to make this relationship, so I could kind of play around and say, well, what are we talking here? So if I use this collinear and I select this to that, so does it have any effect? So not really. So we're going to kind of have to figure out some ways to deal with these type of geometric relationships. So for now, let's go ahead and apply some dimensional constraints. Remember, there is a difference between our geometric constraints here versus our dimensional constraints here. So, and I can see that from the center, and I'm now looking in the top view, so I know from the center of the top circle to there is 25 millimeters. So let's place that. And I know from the center of that circle to the top is 75 millimeters there. So let's place that. And I'm also seeing that I can say, all right, from here over to the right or the left edge, so that is 180 millimeters. So I get that into position. All right. And I can use the dimensional constraint here the same way to kind of tie this in as well. And we say, all right, well, we're going to be at 180 millimeters there too. Now, notice that creates two-dimensional constraints. In terms of efficiency, not quite as efficient. So if we actually had the correct geometric constraint on there, we would be able to know exactly what that is. So I'm going to undo this sketch for a second. So we're going to undo that. We're going to play around a little bit with these constraints just to see what some of those are. So if I say I'm going to use the coincident constraint, let's click on that and click there. Notice it says, let's do that again. So I didn't really see, failed to solve. Please try to resolve and revising dimension constraints. So you can click on some more information here. Maybe that'll give it to you. But basically what's that saying is we've got this dimensional constraint here. So let's kind of reapply this. I'm going to delete this dimension out. Now let's see if I can do this coincident. I'm going to click there to there. Notice how it actually moves that over. It makes those 2 points the same, which isn't exactly what we want here. So let's click undo for this. So that is definitely not the constraint that we want to use. But a coincident, if we want to join those, we definitely can do it. Now let's try this tangent constraint. So let's again try from here to there. Notice what happens when we create the tangent constraint. So again, not what we want. Let's undo that. So we're just kind of reviewing some of these different constraints here. Parallel, well, can't really talk about parallelism or perpendicularism of two circles. We could say concentric. That would be basically making those two circles share the same center point, or which would, because they both are the same size, be essentially the same as the coincident. So we can say collinear here now. So again, the collinear to that, again, nothing really happens with that. So we kind of fix or unfix locks position or midpoint concentric collinear. So we've got to kind of think about some of these constraints as they go in place and decide where they should be. For right now, the best way to kind of do this, if you can think ahead of time, so let's delete this out for a second. If you can think ahead of time, what is the relationship between these? So you can actually create that, use these auto snap features to kind of create and start those out to begin with. So it's going to help you in your actual drawing to kind of keep those at the very beginning and make sure that you are establishing what those should be. So let's put this back. That's the 25 millimeters here. We are hit the enter button, finish the sketch off. Let's come back to the view here, and now I'm going to extrude. So I'll select both of these, and instead of being a new body, we're going to cut these. So we need to go the opposite direction. So let's take these down. Again, I could do the extent to a certain distance, because right now our extent type here is a distance, or I can just say I know I want that to go on cut all the way through. So we'll cut all the way through. Now we have added the two hole patterns that are on here just using the sketch where we're sketching a diameter or a circle on these and extruding down. So that is the holes adding into this particular product and model.